Well, the increased price target was more on the 2020 numbers and our feeling that this elongation of the upgrade cycle was extending. In fact, for services today, we're more concerned about a sell-off on some of the disappointment. It's hard for, I think, Apple to try and impress people, especially in the media world, with the amount of content that they have today. But we'll see. There's still some content or some comments left to be made as far as the original content.
Would you characterize what's going on today as the big pivot in this company's evolution away from a sort of a single-minded focus on selling devices to a world where eventually more of its revenue may ultimately come from services, including credit card fees, for goodness sakes, original programming, and apps?
I mean, it's a pivot that's been going on for a while. I mean, 2 years ago, they hired 2 Sony executives. They've spent, or they've greenlit, I think, 300 original or 30 original programs. They've spent probably $1 billion to $2 billion on content. There's been a lot of discussion even by the management team on conference calls about services. So I think this is more of the advertisement to those in content land. Here we are. They'll probably card out some celebrities that have had a positive experience with Apple, talk about their brand, focus on privacy. I think you've already seen that in the comments thus far. In everything that they've announced, they've talked about, hey, we're not going to take your data. We're not going to abuse the customer's information. That's going to be a key part. And then just their willingness to spend. So I think this is more an advertisement for a longer process to get into the services space. I mean, look, a lot of people are talking about Apple versus Netflix. The bigger issue here is in the U.S. alone, you have 85 million households spending more than $100 a month on their pay TV services. So it shouldn't necessarily be an Apple versus Netflix battle.
Right.
We're very early stages in how people are shifting how they're consuming their content.
Ed, do we know the pricing yet?
We still don't know the pricing yet.
And what do we know about the interface?
Well, so I think the interface, I was just watching it now, what they're really doing, these deals that they struck with the pay TV providers like Spectrum, even Hulu, which I'm a little surprised by being part of it, they're just disaggregating the content that's available on these services and then just sort of putting it in the Apple format, which is actually kind of nice. If you're an Apple customer, you're used to that interface. And I think
the interface being Apple TV?
The Apple TV interface and their software design, and I think that's a big plus. I think that Apple's doing their best to sort of put their best foot forward and sort of this is what we do well. Right now, it's all other people's content, right? I think that they're now just talking about the content they're about to show that they funded themselves. But again, that's like a smaller part of this, ultimately. It's an appetizer to the bigger bundle that they want you to buy into. But these are bundles you're already buying into, whether it's Spectrum or Hulu or other things. So I haven't seen the big switch yet in terms of we're a full service provider. We want to own some more of these things as well. That's what we're waiting to see.
Am I going to be able to get Netflix on these?
No, you can't get Netflix. That's the thing. That's a good way of thinking about it, right?
Here I come. I have this. I mean, I've been one of these people who has spent a lot of money on cable television. Fortunately, we work for Comcast. I get a nice discount with Comcast. So
nice service.
Very happy.
Right.
Very nice. Very happy with that.
We couldn't get the Comcast discount, by the way.
You got to move to my town. That's what you got to do. But ultimately, my hypothesis is that people are going to end up paying roughly the same because they're going to have, I'm going to have my Netflix subscription, got to have that, got to have my Apple subscription, got to have this one for that.
It's another cord, it's another bundle, but that's the right way to think about it. Netflix is just another cord. It's a cheaper cord, and I think it's a very easy, one that you can use very easily, turn on, turn off, and that was the appeal, which is why they've got 60 million subscribers in the U.S. But that's why they're competing with each other. Apple is a distributor, so is Netflix. We tend to talk about Netflix and all their originals, but really, they're really a reseller of other people's content as well, because most of the stuff you see on Netflix is licensed. It's not stuff that they own. And I think Apple's basically doing the same thing. They're just going about it in a slightly different way.
Walter, also wonder what you think Apple needs to hit in order to really move the needle here. Of course, these are all pointing towards years-long future growth. But as I mentioned earlier, by Goldman's estimates, they could have 20 million people on this streaming service, price depending, of course, and it would only move EPS by 1% next fiscal year.
Right, they have 900 million active iPhone users, 1.4 billion across the platform. We'll see if that TV app appears on Macs, and obviously it's going to appear, I think, on the Roku, so that's a way to further expand it. So I think focusing on whether they get to 20 million in 2 years or 3 years misses the bigger opportunity that if this is something that they can develop and it's attractive, the much larger global opportunity. Let's put those 900 million or the 1.4 billion in perspective. Netflix has, 150 million global customers? and they spend $15 billion on content, half of which is original. I mean, Apple generates $65 billion of free cash flow a year. They've got, hundreds of billions of cash. They have a brand, an R&D, a focus on privacy that positions them well to attract the content that wants to be on their platform. They're going to make it easier for you, like keeping it within the native app. They still have to go out and execute, but they're coming at it from a very strong position, a strong brand, and something that I think consumers really want to have in an age where privacy has been a big issue.